Hey you guys, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Leah if you're new here. So I have been wanting to sit down and do this video for quite some time and haven't had the time, but today I decided to go ahead and do it. I want to talk about what to do or how to know when God is shifting your career goals or your career aspirations. This video is very near to my heart because I feel like God has been shifting me for the past 5 years away from what I had always said that I wanted to do and what I went to school for and graduate school for and all that kind of stuff. So I want to talk a little bit about that. If you're interested in watching, as always, please stay tuned. For those who don't know, I spent my entire 20s pursuing my goal of becoming a professor, of entering into the academy, higher education, got my master's, pursuing my doctorate, got my doctorate. But I would say around the middle point of my PhD program, which was a 5-year program, although it took me 6.5 years to finish up my dissertation and complete everything. Around the middle point, I really started to question if being a professor, going into the academy, was what I actually wanted to do. I knew I loved to teach. I know I love education, but what I began to witness in the academy, and really it was me having my child and getting married and all that kind of stuff, was that it didn't feel conducive for my lifestyle and my goals. You know, I made a goal when I was 19, right? And at 26, I was looking around and saying, I don't know if this is what I want to be a part of. I don't think this is what I want to be a part of. And so that leads me really to the first thing that I believe happens when God is shifting you and shifting your career goals and career aspirations, is that I think that He provides a sober picture of what it is that you think you want. And for me, at least, it felt like God was prompting me to say, okay, I'm showing you what this is. Is this what you really want? I'm showing you what it is. I'm showing you toxic behaviors. I'm showing you some of the gaslighting going on, just to call it what it is. I'm showing you what it is. Is this what you really want? And so I had to take a step back and say, okay, what is it now that I'm closer to it, now that I'm getting closer to the goal and I'm able to really see this without the rose-colored glasses on of being a sophomore in high school and college, is what I believed it to be what it actually is, and am I comfortable with that, right? Is the goal that I believed it to be, standing at a distance, now that I'm closer up, what is it actually? And do I want that for myself? And so the first thing that happened was just a sober-minded view of what my initial goals were, a sober-minded view of what or how my life would be impacted if I continue to pursue this thing that it felt more and more like I wasn't meant to pursue in the ways that I initially thought, right? So that was the first thing that I believe happened with me, and I believe will happen with you, is that you start to look at the thing that you said you always wanted and you think, do I actually want that? Is this really what I'm signing up for? Because for me, it really did shift my mindset when I began to look around. And like I said, really after I had my first son, and say, I don't know that this is built for anybody really, but I don't know if I won't say it's built for me. I don't know if I'm built for this. Okay, so that's the first thing that I believe happens, is you start to think, okay, is what I thought it was what it actually is? And if it isn't, how do I revise my goals to be honest about what it is? Second thing that I believe happens when God is trying to shift career goals or aspirations is that He puts you in positions to get you comfortable with trusting the unknown. When I decided, or when I first started thinking, I don't want to be in the academy, I don't think this is for me, my initial thought to that was, no, that's not right. You are going to do this. You're going to keep pushing, because I am type A and superwoman and all those things. And when I say I'm going to reach a goal, I'm going to reach a goal. My husband and I, he laughs at me all the time about being just so bullheaded around like what I'm going to get done. But so that was my first response. And then the more I spent time with it, and the more I felt like God was just opening my eyes and showing me certain things, the more that I started to think, okay, is my fear not to reach the goal? Is my fear that I don't know what to do outside of this? Like, I don't feel like what do I do? If I'm not a PhD candidate pursuing tenure track professorship, what else do I have going on, or where do I fit? And I started to realize the more that I saw God show up in other areas of my life, in my marriage, and us moving down here to North Carolina with my children, that I was going to have to trust that I didn't know. I was going to have to trust that God was going to open doors that were unexpected to me. And as someone who is type A, as I mentioned, and likes to have everything under control and know exactly what's happening, that was going to be a test of my faith, and it was. And I'll tell you though, what helped it was I have told myself that I was going to keep a testimony journal, basically where you write down every time God has showed up, made a way out of no way, opened the impossible doors, all of those things that happen and then we forget about it. But I think in keeping a testimony journal, the more you start to see God opening doors for you when you didn't have the answers, the more your faith gets built and you start to trust God. And that's what happened for me. The more I could look back and say, wow, God opened the door when we needed it for us to get down to North Carolina before the pandemic, before we even knew that was happening. Wow, God opened the door for my husband to get this excellent job. God opened the door for, et cetera, on and on and on. The more it gave me space and room to trust him around my career, which I always held so close, and which I don't think I did a very good job of consulting with God about, to be totally honest. So that was the second thing. I saw where God was getting me more and more comfortable with trusting, not knowing what was going to happen, and just saying, okay, I don't know where I can go this way, but I know I'm not going that way. So trusting the not knowing part of the process, I think, is the second thing that happens when God starts to sort of shift your goals, shift your career aspirations. The third thing that happened is that I started to get fresh ideas and fresh inspiration. Started to see where God was opening my mind to think about things differently than I had been thinking about them. So for example, 2019 is when my husband and I ended up self-publishing our first book. Okay, it's a rough one, all right, but we published our first book and we want to do some revisions to that in the new year. That's some of our goals. But writing that book opened the door so that when we got down here to North Carolina, my godfather says, hey, don't you all have a book? And we were really gearing it towards college students. We called it Don't Waste Your College Tuition, just talking about the questions and the things and the steps you need to take as a college student to make sure that you're taking full advantage of all the resources in college, because most of us go to college and we think we're going to show up in class and do work and get our degree like we did in high school, and magical jobs are going to fall out of the skilling, or the graduate program that we want to get into is going to happen. But that's not how it works, right? These things are competitive and you have to take advantage. So anyway, we were writing about that. We get down here to North Carolina, my godfather says, don't you all have a book, and don't you know a little bit about scholarships? And he sets us on this path to working with high school students. Now, I never had any thought about working with high school students, never crossed my mind. But we start doing some one-on-one consulting with high school students and speaking engagements with high school students. And little do I know, or did I realize, that God was setting us up not only for our business, but also because he knew that I was going to be in this position that I'm in now, teaching high school students. Interesting to me how all of a sudden I started getting ideas and fresh inspiration, and my husband started getting ideas and fresh inspiration. And I believe that that's because God was just slowly setting us up to shift away from the things that we had thought we wanted. My husband is included in this too, although he can tell his own testimony. But the things that we thought we wanted, and into entrepreneurship, but I think even more so back to that point of trusting him and trusting that he would give us what we needed to not have to follow the path that I thought for a long time was the only path that I could take. So that was the third thing that happened. And the third thing that I believe God will begin to do with you, he's going to give you fresh ideas, fresh anointing on ways to do things. And I know we always push, or people always push entrepreneurship, but I don't even necessarily think just with that. I think even fresh ideas in the workplace, or fresh ideas on how to make things more productive, right? Just fresh anointing in that area. Because like I said, for me, all of a sudden I started getting these ideas and inspiration, and Jerome and I just bounced back and forth off of each other, and get in that creative loop. And I truly believe it's just God saying, I'm shifting you, I'm shifting you, I'm shifting you, I'm shifting you. Hey, here's another idea because I'm shifting you. So that's the third thing that I believe happens when God begins to shift your career goals and career aspirations. Okay, and then the fourth and final thing is that I think when God begins to shift your career goals and aspirations, he's shifting them so that you have a more robust and whole, W-H-O-L-E, life. Really, truly, 19-year-old Leah and her goals was someone totally different from 26, 27-year-old Leah, who is different from 32-year-old Leah that now has 2 children or is married and has 2 children. And I believe that if I tried to pursue the goals the way that I did when I had no children and was single and had all of this extra time, I would drive my family into the ground. And I think that part of what God has been doing for me in shifting my perspective is in helping me to shift into a perspective that reaches my maturity right now, right? Goals that grow with where I am as a wife and a mom, and that grow with knowing that those things are a priority for me. That I don't play around with those things, that I don't let anything challenge those things. If I feel like it's coming up against my marriage or my children, those things will go quick before I let it affect my household. And so I think that part of the growth sometimes and the shift in career goals and aspirations is that you're making a shift in life, and God is trying to help undergird that life shift by helping you to recalibrate what career looks like. Does that make sense? And it might not be kids and children for you. It might be that you want to travel more. It might be that you do want to date more. It might be that, you know what, you want to live in a different city or move to a different country or whatever it is that God has put on your heart. But I think that part of him putting it on our heart, right, is to allow space for the robustness and fullness of life. Because I think the reason why so many of us have dealt with so much depression or anxiety or stress around the workplace is because we're still trying to do the workplace as if we're 25 still, or as if we're even in 30 still, you know, maybe back, 2 years ago for me, right? I'm not the same person. And so just giving myself the grace and giving God the room to really drive my life and drive my career choices, and saying, you know what, I'm going to take a back seat. I'm going to take a back seat and let God do it and see what happens and enjoy the trip. That has taken a lot of stress off my shoulders, and it has made me a happier person. I can't tell you how difficult I believe this transition into the workforce for me, as someone who has basically been a stay-at-home mom for 4 years, would have been if not for God positioning with us, working with high school students already, with me realizing that, oh, teaching is my passion. The research side is cool, but I would rather teach. That's what I want to do. If God hadn't set those building blocks up for me, which opened my mind to say, okay, you know what, God, I'm going to trust you in the unknown, but I know that this isn't what I want. Had he not done that, I don't know that this transition into the workforce, I know it wouldn't have been, I don't know, would have been as smooth as it has been for me and as enjoyable as it has been for me. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. I'm still in transition phase. I'm still thinking about what God is calling me to do, first as a wife and as a mom, and then second as a teacher, as an educator. But I thought that I would share the things that I've seen happen literally over the last 5 years. It has taken that long for me, as my mindset shifted away from something that had been the thing that I was going to do, until it became the thing that I despised. I mean, just did not want to be a part of. And I think there's a way that perhaps you can make that shift without it getting to that unhealthy place. That unhealthy place of just, get me out of here. Okay, so anyway, that's it, you guys. I just wanted to share. Like I said, I'm reflecting. It's the end of the year. I'm thinking about my goals. I'm thinking about the fact that I'm turning another year older, which I'm so thankful for. But it also helps me to think about how I'm maturing in the various aspects of my life. All right, you guys, thank you so much for watching as always, and I will see you guys in another video.